Even though I barely know the guy, I feel so much pity for him already.
Pokemon Ranger! I choose you!
What's up, mighty boys and girls, it's your Ranger Boy here, and welcome to another review of Pokemon Horizons. This time it's episode 4, and to be honest, even though some fans are under the impression that Roy is a rather underwhelming and disappointing character, let me tell you one thing, in terms of this week, I can't be more disappointed. Why? Because I'm an Arsenal fan. And after witnessing that, I can't be more let down. But why is the fanbase so let down by this secondary main character, even before he made his debut? Well, if you wanna know more, then grab some popcorn, grab some cookies, and let's do this. This episode starts off with our girl Liko waking up after a stressful few days thanks to everything that happened before, and with her now finally changing into her signature non-school outfit, while telling us that her school break is almost over. I mean, sure, she mentioned that she will attempt online classes now while traveling on the airship, but it would be actually nice to see her attempting the school in person once in a while, because not only do I really like her roommate Anne, but I also don't want her to neglect school like a certain other main character did. Oh, you forgot that Go was actually supposed to go to school, didn't you? Well, so did I. After getting interrupted by best starter Fuecoco singing in a really adorable way while getting embarrassed, it's time to meet her crewmates. And I guess the rising Voltaclers don't really mind that she doesn't attempt school, because they quickly assign her some duties aboard the ship. Doesn't mean that Liko has the right to neglect schoolwork though, since she's still making some further notes about her Sprigatito. Suddenly they had to land on a nearby Kanto island because it seems like the ship has been leaking gas and has to be repaired. Again. Which, first of all, girl, didn't you spend the entire last episode repairing the ship and you just now realized that there were holes in the balloon? But even with that, all are still waifu. But secondly, I was so looking forward to finally leave Kanto to see the Paldea region for the first time ever. But I guess we will never get rid of the Kanto region. The pain will never end. So Fried is now collecting the necessary material for repairing the ship, and without anyone noticing, Fuecoco casually falls into his near death after trying to chase the professor. Man, even when he's on death's door, he's still adorable. Our heroine, who is also responsible for the Pokemon on the ship, finally realizes that the Fire Croc Pokemon isn't on board, so she's eagerly searching for him. And after having a talk with the old Quaxley guy, who is now known as Ludlow, oh my god, you can talk? Liko actually gets a pretty useful tip from Molly that Fuecoco could be on the upper deck since it really admires Charizard, who is constantly there. By the way, one of the comments in my last video actually pointed out that Molly could be the ship's Nurse Joy, and after seeing her with the stethoscope and, you know, the Chansey, I guess the commenter hit the nail right on the head. Well done, my friend. Well done. So up she goes, and our girl quickly realizes what tragic fate came upon the crocodile Pokemon. So we are heading towards the classic anti-Poketrope of searching for the lost Pokemon. And while she's doing that, we are finally seeing the supposed second main character, Roy, in action. And he is, throwing a rock. Okay. And then we see him actually attempting online class, with his classmates all becoming Pokemon trainers before him, all having goals before him, and even suggesting Roy to catch a Pikachu as his first Pokemon. Like, really? A freaking Pikachu? Don't we have enough? I would honestly catch any other Kanto Pokemon before I would catch that. Hell, one of my favorite Pokemon Sci-Fi is actually on that island. But then again, Tracy had a Sci-Fi as well. I'm so sorry, Tracy. So I guess since the choice of your first Pokemon is a very important one, Roy wants to take his time, especially since he wants his Pokemon to help him out with a certain goal of his. After a short cut of Liko having some misunderstanding with other Pokemon thanks to Fuecoco, the scoundrel, the Gen 9 starter still seems to cause some trouble after messing up Roy's secret base, which to be honest, Roy's secret base is kinda impressive. But the Kanto boy doesn't seem to mind the violation of his domain at all after hearing the Paldean Pokemon singing, which I honestly can't blame him, it's adorable. It gets embarrassed again, one event leads to another, and both of them later sing a song together in peace and harmony, while Liko is still chased by other wild Pokemon. Poor girl. Roy then expresses his actual desire, which is finally leaving the Kanto region to travel around the world and encounter different kinds of Pokemon. Shite, here we go again, for another 20 years I guess. The duo then suddenly gets interrupted by the chaos that he caused. Roy then distracts the wild Pokemon with his rock throwing, and then helps the maiden in need. During that incident, both Roy's mysterious Pokeball and Liko's pendant seem to react to each other, and soon we hear some more stories about that Pokeball. That it's an old Pokeball, can't be opened, and in general has several mysteries surrounding it. Is this some kind of deja vu here? But Roy doesn't want to be just your ordinary trainer, he wants to be the ordinary trainer. He wants to be like the ancient trainers his grandpa told him, facing legendaries, traveling around the world and finding treasures and going to places unknown to mankind. Oh boy, let's wrap up this episode. The rampaging Pokemon catch our heroes, Freed saves the day. Liko just now realized that Freed is an actual professor, which, you know, I can't really blame her. He basically kidnapped her. They make up with the wild Pokemon, and for now, both Liko and Roy part ways. At least the episode ended in an interesting way, with Amifio now being revealed to work for a guy called Master Gibeon, and the explorers about to make their next move, which really gave me some Team Rocket vibes during their Black and White days. So, that's the episode, and oh god, let's get this over with, shall we? In short, this episode was a huge dud. And in general, a massive misfire when it comes to introducing your second main character, but I will talk about Roy just in a few seconds. First, the few good things about this episode, that there seems to be some kind of relationship between Liko's pendant and Roy's ancient Pokeball, and I'm somewhat excited to what this connection / relationship will be. And with that in mind, I'm at least glad that this Pokeball just won't end up like the GS ball did back in the old days. In all honesty, it would be kind of cool if the ancient Pokeball was an essential tool to either control the unknown Pokemon residing in the pendant or as some sort of trigger mechanic to change into the other form, but only time will tell. Another thing I really liked about this episode was the ending, with the explorers now being revealed to work under some kind of overlord, and that this person is aiming for the pendant for some unknown reason, which at least still keeps the mysterious vibe surrounding Amifio alive. Sadly, we now have to talk about everything else. And in terms of plot, it was nothing special at all. Just your typical first encounter between trainer and Pokemon and the classic misunderstanding story between your heroes and some wild Pokemon. The little nuance of both Roy and Fuecoco singing the song was at least very nice, since it somewhat hints on a potential evolution of Fuecoco in the distant future, but besides that, everything else was just so generic. And I think the word generic is unfortunately the best way to describe Roy as a whole. His design, the way he got introduced, his character and his overall ambitions, all the things in regards of this secondary protagonist is so by the numbers and so overused, it's really not surprising that not many fans were excited about him at all. Heck, even if you think back to the time when both characters got revealed, everybody, and I mean everybody in the community was only talking about Liko, and the only time Roy came up during those conversations was solely because he got overshadowed by Liko, and that was way before he debuted. Even if you look at all the comments of my last two reviews, many of them blatantly just pointed out how Liko is great and were asking whether or not Roy was actually necessary. And since there was already this negative mindset towards Roy, the anime had one really hard problem to overcome. They had to do something to make Roy special. They had to do something that makes Roy stand out so that he can shine as an individual character instead of being part of the status quo, and sadly, they did not do that. In fact, he is the direct opposite of Liko, and there's a good and a bad way about that. It's a good way since his outgoing and direct nature is a nice contrast to Liko's introvert character, but at the same time, that introvert character is what makes her special, especially compared to Ash. But everything that was shown in terms of Roy, in my opinion, was a bit too much like Ash, to the point where it didn't really matter how he was displayed or what he did. It's all things we have seen and heard before, and basically has been done so many times to the point of overuse. So in short, no, they did not make Roy stand out from the rest of the characters, or even stand out from Ash. But even worse, the fear of him being almost a direct copy of Ash and being displayed as just a generic character sadly came true. I really do hope that part 2 will change him up and will make him a little bit more interesting, but in all honesty, the first impression wasn't really it. And I have to say one thing and one thing only: I'm really sorry, Roy. Anyway guys, I really hope you enjoyed this review. Sorry for the negativity. I hope that next week will be way more positive. What's your opinion on Roy? Tell me, and just like always, see you guys in the comments down below.